So this is going to be a demo kind of on the vowel counting lab. It's not going to be quite. I'm just going to count a couple letters so you can kind of see how it's going to work. So I create my form. I got my form here. I'm going to put a text box out there. Text box. I'm going to expand it a little bit so you can type whatever you want to type in there. I'll put my button on here so you can click it. Do what you want with it. A couple labels. Put my label here. A label here.
You can just copy it and then paste. Control-C and Control-V.
Yep, if you want to do it like that, you can. So like Ryan was saying, I got my label 2, it's highlighted. I can do a Control-C and a Control-V, and then it'll throw my third label down out here. And you can do that with any control you want. I can highlight my text box, hit Control-C, Control-V, and paste as many as I want on there. I don't want all those, so I'll get rid of them and keep my original. So I've got to go in, got to name my text box, do all that stuff for it. So I go down to my design, my name, and again, our naming conventions, we do TXT, enter phrase. So I'm going to call that one. Go to my button. Again, button, the naming convention is BTN. Let's just call it count vowels. I'll call it count letters since I'm not technically doing vowels. Count letters. Go back up to the appearance. Change my text up there to say count letters. Change my label. Please enter a phrase. Two, I will say your vowel count or your letter count.
That's the wrong period.
Yeah, I did. Line my stuff up to make it look a little prettier. Get rid of that text because that's where I'm going to show my vowel count out at. Call that. So there's the layout of what I'm trying to do there. Give everybody a minute to finish typing. So now we got our layout of our form. We're going to start coding for it. We want to do our button click event, so we just double click on our button to get our wiring hooked up. Here's our button count letters and the click event. That's where we're going to start putting our code at in there. So first thing I'm going to do is get what the user is entering. Just call it a string and just call it a phrase. The phrase, of course, is going to be my text. Enter phrase dot text. That allows me to get what the user is entering. We still have to declare our data type for our variable that we call our identifier. So I give it a data type of string, since that's all we're looking for is a string in this case. And then I will create a variable. We haven't used variable much or at all in here. A variable, the VAR, what it does is it says it will decide the data type for you on this. So I'm going to do var total and just assign it a value of 0 to start out with. I can call this an int, and I will go ahead and, it doesn't matter. I'll leave it as a variable just so you can see a different way. But you can call it an int, double, float, whatever you want to call it. I'm just calling it a variable, letting the computer decide what I want to do for it.
Did you say you want us to stop using var?
That's more for JavaScript. They're trying to get away from var to use let in that. I'll go ahead. I'll make it an int then. Just see if it causes a problem later on. And the lab says you use a substring, or you can use a substring. I'm going to go ahead and use the substring, so I'm going to put it in here, and I'm going to start it out at 0, so it starts at the beginning of our phrase. And we haven't done much of this yet either. We'll get more into these. We'll get more into the for each loop once we start getting into arrays and all that kind of stuff. But there's a for each loop, and we're going to say for each character, each char, for each char C in our phrase. And I'm also going to make mine go ToLower, and we haven't used this yet either. When we start doing searches and stuff with these arrays and that, we'll start using this ToLower more. All this is doing is taking all these letters in phrase, our phrase up here. So if somebody puts capital letters in, it's going to look for, it's going to switch them to lowercase, and that's all we have to look for is lowercase letters. We don't have to worry about if it's upper. We don't have to worry about anything like that. By converting this phrase to lower, all we have to do is check for lowercase letters. So it's going to save us a little bit of a headache. And then now we're going to do our switch statement. And the switch is going to be that C that we defined up there in our for each loop, that character, the char C. So we're going to switch that C. IntelliSense is telling me I need my squiggly brackets there. So this is where you would search for your vowels in this place if you're going to be doing it. So you could do like a case A, and I will do an A to start out with. And then I'm also going to do case, we'll do a B. Yeah. What's that? Oh yeah, yep, sorry about that. Is that better?
Yes, sir.
All right. So case R. So I'll leave it at this just as a quick one. Oops, let me get my total back where I wanted it. So then after that total, the case is mad because we're not breaking out of it yet. So once we put our break in here, that should make our case R happy. So as we're saying check for A, B, and R. If you find one of those, add it to the total. And then once we're done with everything, break out of this. We'll do a default. Continue. This is just saying if there's nothing in here, keep going through, continuing through the code. And then finally, we're going to have our label down here. I want my result count. And I usually, if I have a label that's just part of my text, I like to put text behind it so I know it's not going to display anything for me. And you can see this one here. It says count result, doesn't have anything text behind, so I know this is where I'm going to want to display my results. So then we want dot text. Equals, and again I like the string interpolation, so I will do string interpolation. There are total number of A's, B's, and R's, since that's all we're technically looking for. So hopefully when I run this, whatever I type in here, it'll count the number of A's, B's, and R's, total them up, and put the total out to the screen. So let's give this a try. So let's do the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. So we have what? 1B, 1A, 1R. Is that what I'm seeing in here? So we do a letter count. 4 A's, B's, and R's. So what? Oh, the brown. So we have 1A in lazy, 1B in brown, the R in brown, and the R in over. So there's 4 A's, B's, and R's in this little thing here. Let's try ranking students rock. 3 A's, B's, and R's. The R in Rankin, the A in Rankin, and the R in rock. So it's picking up our R in Rankin, the A in Rankin, and the R in rock. So that's a quick way you can do these. For the vowels though, this is the basic setup for it. There's just a few things you'd have to change on it, but other than that it's pretty straightforward. Hopefully that'll give you a little bit of help or a head start. A jump on I don't even know what lab number it is. I call it lab 8. It's like the 8th one total in all the lab chapter 5 labs. So maybe lab 3 part 2 or something like that. I don't have my rubric up to look at it. But anyhow, that's how you do it. You can type anything you want in there. You can change these letters around to test other letters. We could do it as a C here and run this. My car won't start, it's too cold. There are 6 number A's, B's, and R's. Oh, I didn't change my total down here. A's, C's, and R's now. A's, C's, and R's. Just going to copy this, rerun it, paste it in there again. 6 numbers of A's, C's, and R's. There's a C in car, a C in cold, an A in car, an A in start, an R in car, and an R in start. So that's how it picks them up. It does a substring. It runs through the whole entire string because we started at 0. 0 is at the very first letter. It goes through that whole text, through the substring. This for each is checking each char, each character in our phrase. So it goes through each letter in our phrase and checks to see if there's a switch case. So we're using a C, so it's sending each character through our switch statement. It's looking for an A, C, or an R. If it finds one, it adds to our total. When it gets done to the end, it breaks and finishes. If not, it keeps running through this until we finish. Our phrase ToLower, as you can see, I type in capital letters, and what that does, it converts anything that's capital, it converts it to a lowercase, and that way we don't have to worry about checking for capital, lowercase. We can just check for lowercase the whole entire time and not worry about it. So pretty easy, straightforward demo there. Hopefully that'll get you on your way to